The enemy is destroyed. Axinia smiles once more. Automatically the land is hers now. The deaf man hanging up the linen again is a stroke of genius on Chekhov's part. The child theme is continued when Lipa comes on foot the long, long way back from the hospital. Her baby has died. She carries his little body wrapped in a blanket. Lipa went down the road and before reaching the hamlet sat down by a small pond. A woman brought a horse to water, but the horse would not drink. "What more do you want?" the woman said to it softly in perplexity. "What more do you want?" A boy in a red shirt sitting at the water's edge was washing his father's jack boots, and not another soul was in sight, either in the village or on the hill. "Doesn't drink," said Lipa, looking at the horse. This little group should be noted. The boy, not her boy. All of it is emblematic of the simple family happiness that might have been hers. Notice the unobtrusive symbolism of Chekhov. Then the woman with the horse and the boy with the boots walked away, and there was no one left at all. The sun went to sleep, covering itself with a skeined cloth of gold, and long clouds, red lilac, stretched across the sky, guarded its rest. Somewhere far away, a bittern boomed, a hollow, melancholy sound as that made by a cow shut up in a barn. The cry of that mysterious bird was heard every spring, but no one knew what it was like or where it lived. At the top of the hill by the hospital, in the bushes close to the pond, and in the fields, the nightingales were singing their heads off. The cuckoo kept reckoning someone's years and losing count and beginning again. In the pond, the frogs called angrily to one another, straining themselves to bursting, and one could even make out the words, "That's what you are, that's what you are." What a noise there was! It seemed as though all these creatures were singing and shouting so that no one might sleep on that spring night, so that all, even the angry frogs, might appreciate and enjoy every minute. Life is given only once. End of quote. Among European writers, you may distinguish the bad one from the good one by the simple fact that the bad one has generally one nightingale at a time, as happens in conventional poetry, while the good one has several of them sing together, as they really do in nature. The men Lipa meets on the road are probably bootleggers, but Lipa sees them otherwise in the moonlight. "Are you holy men?" Lipa asked the old man. "No, we are from Fursanovo." "You looked at me just now and my heart was softened," an almost biblical intonation in the Russian text. "And the lad is so gentle, I thought you must be holy men." "Have you far to go?" "To Yukleevo." "Get in, we will give you a lift as far as Kuzmenki. Then you go straight on and we turn off to the left." Vavila, the young man, got into the cart with the barrel, and the old man and Lipa got into the other. They moved at a walking pace, Vavila in front. "My baby was in torment all day," said Lipa. "He looked at me with his little eyes and said nothing. He wanted to speak and could not. Lord God, Queen of Heaven, in my grief I kept falling down on the floor. I would be standing there, and then I would fall down by the bedside. And tell me, grandfather, why should a little one be tormented before his death? When a grown-up person, a man or woman, is in torment, his sins are forgiven, but why a little one? When he has no sins, why?" "Who can tell?" answered the old man. They drove on for half an hour in silence. "We can't know everything, how and why," said the old man. "A bird is given not 4 wings, but 2, because it is able to fly with 2, and so man is not permitted to know everything, but only a half or a quarter. As much as he needs to know in order to live, so much he knows." "Never mind," he repeated. "Yours is not the worst of sorrows. Life is long. There is good and bad yet to come. There is everything to come. Great is Mother Russia," he said, and looked round on either side of him. "I have been all over Russia, and I have seen everything in her, and you may believe my words, my dear. There will be good and there will be bad. I went as a messenger from my village to Siberia, and I have been to the Amur River and to the Altai Mountains, and I immigrated to Siberia. I worked the land there, then I got homesick for Mother Russia, and I came back to my native village. And when I got home, as the saying is, there was neither stick nor stone. I had a wife, but I left her behind in Siberia. She was buried there. So I am a hired man now, and I tell you, since then I have had it good as well as bad. I do not want to die, my dear. I would be glad to live another 20 years, so there has been more of the good. And great is our Mother Russia." And again he gazed on either side and looked back. When Lipa reached home, the cattle had not yet been driven out. Everyone was asleep. She sat down on the steps and waited. The old man was the first to come out. He understood what had happened from the first glance at her, and for a long time he could not utter a word, but only smacked his lips. "Oh, Lipa," he said, "you did not take care of my grandchild." Varvara was awakened. She struck her hands together and broke into sobs and immediately began laying out the baby. "And he was such a pretty child," she said. "Oh, dear, dear, you had the one child and you did not take enough care of him, you silly thing." In her innocence, Lipa never thought of telling people it was Axinia who had killed her baby. Apparently, the family believed that Lipa had just been careless and had accidentally scalded the child by overturning a pot of hot water. After the requiem service, quote, Lipa waited at table, and the priest, lifting his fork on which there was a salted mushroom, said to her, quote, "Don't grieve for the babe, for such is the kingdom of heaven." And only when they had all left, Lipa realized fully that there was no Nikifor and never would be. She realized it and broke into sobs. And she did not know what room to go into to sob, for she felt that now her child was dead. There was no place for her in the house, that she had no reason to be there, that she was in the way, and the others felt it too. "Now what are you bellowing for?" Axinia shouted, suddenly appearing in the doorway. Because of the funeral, she was dressed up in new clothes and had powdered her face. "Shut up!" Lipa tried to stop, but could not, and sobbed louder than ever. "Do you hear?" shouted Axinia and stamped her foot in violent anger. "Who is it I am speaking to? Get out of the house and don't set foot here again, you convict. Get out." There, the old man put in fussily. "Axinia, don't make such an outcry, my dear. She is crying. It is only natural. Her child is dead. It's only natural," Axinia mimicked him. "Let her stay the night here, and don't let me see a trace of her tomorrow. It's only natural," she mimicked him again, and laughing went into the shop. Lipa has lost the frail link that connected her to the household and leaves the house forever. In all cases except Axinia's, the truth gradually comes out. The mechanical quality of Varvara's virtues is nicely exemplified by the jam she keeps making. There's too much of it. It goes sugary and uneatable. We recall that poor Lipa had been so fond of it. The jam turned against Varvara. The letters from Enisim still come in that beautiful hand. Evidently his friend Samorodov is doing time with him in the mines of Siberia, so that here too the truth comes out. "I am ill here all the time. I am wretched. For Christ's sake, help me." Old Grigory, half crazy, wretched, unloved, is the most vivid representative here of truth coming into its own. Quote, "One fine autumn day toward evening, old Grigory was sitting near the church gates with the collar of his fur coat turned up, and nothing of him could be seen but his nose and the peak of his cap. At the other end of the long bench sat Yelizarov, the contractor, and beside him Yakov, the school watchman, a toothless old man of 70. Crutch and the watchman were talking. Children ought to give food and drink to the old. Honor thy father and mother," Yakov was saying with irritation. "While she, this woman, Axinia, has turned her father-in-law out of his own house, the old man has neither food nor drink. Where is he to go? He has not had a morsel these 3 days. 3 days, said Crutch, amazed. Here he sits and does not say a word. He has grown feeble, and why be silent? He ought to prosecute her. They wouldn't praise her in court. Who praised whom in court? Asked Crutch, who was hard of hearing. What? From the watchman. The woman's all right, said Crutch. She does her best. In their line of business, they can't get on without that. Without cheating, I mean. Kicked out of his own house, Yakov went on with irritation. Save up and buy your own house, then turn people out of it. She is a nice one, to be sure. A plague. Grigory listened and did not stir. Whether it is your own house or others, it makes no difference so long as it is warm and the women don't scold, said Crutch, and he laughed. When I was young, I was very fond of my Nastasia. She was a quiet woman, and she used to be always at it. Buy a house, Makarich. Buy a house, Makarich. Buy a horse, Makarich. She was dying, and yet she kept on saying, buy yourself a racing droshky, Makarich, so that you don't have to walk, and all I did was to buy her gingerbread. Her husband's deaf and stupid, Yakov went on, not listening to Crutch. A regular fool, just like a goose. He can't understand anything. Hit a goose on the head with a stick, and even then it does not understand. Crutch got up to go home. Yakov also got up, and both of them went off together, still talking. When they had gone 50 paces, old Grigory got up too and walked after them, stepping uncertainly as though on slippery ice. That's the end of the quote. In this last chapter, the introduction of a new character and the toothless old watchman is another stroke of genius on the part of Chekhov, suggesting the continuity of existence, even though this is the conclusion of the story. But the story will go on with old and new characters. It will flow on as life flows on. Note the synthesis at the end of this tale. Quote, the village was already sinking in the dusk of evening, and the sun only gleamed on the upper part of the road, which ran wriggling like a snake up the slope, end of quote. The brilliant snake-like trail, an emblem of Axinia, fades and vanishes in the serene bliss of the night. Quote, old women were coming back from the woods and children with them. They were bringing baskets of mushrooms. Peasant women and girls came in a crowd from the station where they had been loading the cars with bricks whose red dust had settled upon their skin under their eyes. They were singing. Ahead of them was Lipa with her eyes turned toward the sky. She was singing in a high voice, caroling away as though exulting in the fact that at last the day was over and one might rest. Among the crowd, holding by the knot something tied up in a kerchief, breathless as usual, walked Praskovia, her mother, who still went out to work by the day. Good evening, Makarich, cried Lipa, seeing Crutch. Good evening, dear. Good evening, Lipyinka, cried Crutch, delighted. Girls, women, love the rich carpenter. Ho, ho, my little children, Crutch gave a sob. My dear little hatchets. Crutch is the not very, end of quote. Crutch is the not very efficient, but on the whole good spirit of the tale. In the dazed state he usually lives in, he had spoken words of peace at the marriage, as if trying in vain to avert the disaster. Old Grigory dissolves in tears. A weak and silent King Lear. Quote, Crutch and Yakov passed and could still be heard talking as they receded. Then old Grigory passed in their wake, and there was a sudden hush in the crowd. Lipa and Praskovia dropped a little behind, and when the old man was abreast of them, Lipa bowed down low and said, Good evening, Grigory Petrovitch. Her mother, too, bowed. The old man stopped and, saying nothing, looked at the two. His lips were quivering and his eyes full of tears. Lipa took out of her mother's knotted bundle a piece of pie stuffed with buckwheat and gave it to him. He took it and began eating. The sun had set by now. Its glow died away on the upper part of the road, too. It was getting dark and cool. Lipa and Praskovia walked on for some time, and for some time kept crossing themselves, end of quote. Lipa is her old self. She dissolves in song, happy in the tiny enclosure of her limited world, united with her dead baby in the coolness of nightfall, and innocently, unconsciously carrying to her God the pink dust of the bricks that are making the fortune of Axinia.